Great. All right. So I think we should start, right? Let's
Yeah.
keep this session interactive, and we'll have the chat box open. So please make sure that you share your views in the chat box. Please share your views related to the topic only. We will not really, we are not interested here to listen something that is outside the topic. Please be in the topic, right? And we'll try to, give you the information in a very crisp manner, as short as possible and as much as possible, so that you know what basics of the blockchain are and how are you supposed to get started, right? Right now, as Muskan has already told you, that this is the hot topic right now. Everybody can see that the currencies are rising, right? But is the technology that is behind that, the prices have just they have, skyrocketed. When a particular coin was 1 lakhs, right now it's 30 lakhs. What is the technology behind that, right? Everybody's talking about prices, but nobody's really talking about the technology that there is. So what we'll do is we'll give you a little bit of insight into what the technology really is, right? And how can you as a developer get started, right? Some of the, what I feel is that majority of you will have this one question in your mind, is how to get started, right? Like what are the basic fundamentals, or what are the basic prerequisites, or what is it that you have to do to get started? Tell you know I'll be very frank with you, it's not much, right? So right now, just to understand what kind of audience I have, let's have a quick questionnaire, please, right? Just reply, it's a yes or no, okay? Open your chat boxes, just you have to type yes or no only, right? I'll appreciate as much uh, you know communication as possible from you guys, right? So that we can do our best to teach you as to about this new technology that we have, right? So tell me if you guys know blockchain, if you have heard it before we reached out to you. Type a yes or a no in the chat box. Okay, I see a lot of yes and a lot of no's as well along with it. Guys, now that's more like it. This is what I like, right? Everybody replied, and this is the enthusiasm that we need for this lecture, right? Nice. Just about okay. Okay, great. Sahil, nice. And uh, the other question is, is there anybody who has developed on a blockchain before, any blockchain, or maybe just a tutorial of it? Is there anybody? I see nose. Okay. Okay, there is one, yes. Okay. So very few, very few who just have, they might have done the tutorial or something on it, right? Very few. So why is it that case? Very few people are approaching. Now, let me ask you one more question. How many of you have actually made a mobile application, a web app, or a website? Okay, yes, yes, okay. Huge, yes, okay, okay. A game, wow, nice. And so whoever said yes, right now what I can see clearly is yes is a lot of there are a lot of yes and there are very few no's. So what I can see is a lot of people, right, they are interested in development. They want to create something. That's why you guys are going towards website development, you guys are going towards Android development, right? This is nothing, it's not distinguished from that. But I'll try to do here is provide you guys an analogy, right, as to what exactly blockchain is, and will relate it to the development of Android apps as well as websites, right? So I think let's start. So I think we have already shared information about us, right? That who we are. And so in this session, what we'll learn is we'll learn the functionings of a blockchain, that how actually a blockchain works. We'll see it in a practical example as well. And then we'll cover some of the use cases of blockchain, right? And then we'll focus on the building blocks of Ethereum. Why Ethereum? Well, when we come to it, we'll discuss it, that why has Ethereum been chosen for this particular webinar, right? And then again, how as a developer can you get started? This is a very crucial question that we'll try to answer as uh, in our best ways, right? So What exactly is blockchain? The big question, the technology behind, Bitcoin, the technology behind Ethereum, right? And all the coins that there are. This is just a transactional, scope of blockchain. There are, furthermore, there are a lot of scopes of blockchains as well, right? So let's study, exactly this blockchain is, from this image here, you can see that, there are blocks here, there are previous hashes, right? All of these things, what exactly that they mean, right? let's Let me try you explaining this with a demo, right? To understand what blockchain actually is, we need a basic definition of hash, right? What exactly is hash? But right now this is SHA-256 hash, right? So SHA-256 hash, it's a one-way function. You feed data to it and it will encrypt a 32 byte string, right? This is right now empty, so this hash is of empty. So you can feed it data and the hash will change, and this hash, it is unique for every data, right? So this will be this for this particular data, and it will, as you change the data, it will encrypt it to this to another hash. Now, to from this particular hash, getting this data is very tedious. It is possible, yes, but it is very, very tedious. It requires a lot of work to get this data from the hash. So this is what we call encryption, right? I think you guys must all be familiar with encryption, but exactly that is, this lies the basis of the blockchain, right? And then we move on to what exactly is a block, right? So a block is nothing but uh, what you can say it's a block is a row in a table. It's just as simple as that. A blockchain is just a different way of storing the information, right? You have your databases, right? Just imagine this as a database only. It's just a database that is stored in blocks, right? We'll come to that, right? We'll try and explain it more here. So now this is a structure of a block, right? In a blockchain, we have a block, we have a nonce, we have data that is inside this block. We can typically have anything in the block, say something like very typical of us developers, right? Let's have hello world here, right? So you can have any sort of data in a block, right? It's mainly for storages, right? As you have MySQL, now developers might relate with me, right? You have PostgreSQL. Now these are central databases. Now, what blockchain is decentralized, right? Let me tell you what blockchain is first, then we'll talk about decentralization, how that is done. So in a blockchain, what happens is that data is stored in a very specific manner, right? If you see here in this example, you can see that the hash of this particular block is being fed to the another block here, right? As the previous hash block, the hash of the previous block. So this particular block is linked with this block with this hash, right? Now, what will happen if I change the data here, right? If I change the data here, this block, it invalidates because the hash of this block changes, right? And furthermore, this block, this also invalidates because the previous hashes don't match, right? If I mine this, you'll see that this will invalidate the other block, right? So this is how a blockchain is formed, right? So the rest of the block, it is invalidated now, right? So let's talk about hash here. What exactly is hash? Hash is something that comprises data, nonce, the block height, that with the number of block that it is. This is first block, this is second block, and so on. So all of this data combined together, and then we feed it into this SHA-256 algorithm, and then we calculate the hash. It's not that simple. It's just that I'm trying to portray something. That's why I'm using this example, right? The hashes are actually, in practicality, there are a lot of hashes that have been done, right? It's not just SHA-256 that is being done, and there are a lot of more hashes that have been done to secure and encrypt the data, right? So you basically can write here anything, right? Hello. What I can have here is if you mine this block, you see that this particular hash right now is changed, right? And the previous hash is right now it's the same definitely, right? But right now this is invalidated because this is not mined. The process of mining is basically putting the data into the block, right, and validating that this block is now successfully this block is now good enough that we can include it in the chain, right? So this comprises the the structure of a blockchain, right? So let me tell you something about in this data. You can basically pass anything in the data then, right? Because this is just a storage, is like another data, like another row in the table, right? You can pass anything in this data. It could be a string, it could be a transaction, it could be a contract, right? It could be an image. You can have anything in this particular data here, right? Blockchain, Bitcoin specifically uses transactions as its data in the blocks, right? Every data in the block, it is sent as a transaction only. We coin the term transaction itself, but that particular data could actually be anything, right? So a blockchain, a block, it comprises transactions, right? So supposedly I am sending money from to me, and I'm sending money to you. For that matter, I'm sending money to Muskan. Then what will happen is that the amount along with from and to and all that information, it stores in the block as this, as a transaction. Now if you visualize it, it's no less than the databases that you guys deal with, right? If you visualize it, a transaction will seem like a row in a database. That's it, right? And the blocks, it will seem like a sort of a linked list where hashes of the previous block are linked with the next block, and then the hashes here are linked with the next, and the hashes here are linked with the next, and so on. And this is a chain that forms, right? And this particular chain, it goes on and on and on as more blocks are added into the chain and more data is being added into the chain. Now all of this data, right, all of these blocks, where are they stored, right? Right now, if you see MySQL, we have a server address, IP address. We can get to a MySQL databases through those IP addresses, right? But where is the storage of this whole blockchain right now? Is blockchain has a concept of decentralization. In decentralization, what happens is that this blockchain, the whole blockchain, is being stored on different nodes, not just one node. Now, if I consider your MySQL database as one node, right, the blockchain in itself is stored on multiple nodes. All of those nodes have the same data, right? Now, because we do not store information in just one centralized server, we have it in various different nodes. This is how decentralization came into picture with blockchain. This is how the structure of nodes came into picture, right? So right now you can see that this is one chain, this is one chain, the similar chain for a different peer, right? And this is similar chain for a different peer. This symbolizes that a blockchain has it has similar copies in almost all nodes that there are, right? And they validate a transaction, put it into the blocks, then that particular block is being added into the chain here, right? So this is the flow of a transaction inside a block, right? I hope everybody understood this part, right? And so can we have a quick yes or no if everybody has understood this part? Mm-hmm. I am audible, right, to everybody? I'm clear? Okay. Great, great, great. Nice. Okay. Then I think we shall, move ahead, right? So how this blockchain can actually be used, right? Now, what we have established from the past example is that one, blockchain is encrypted, right? If it is encrypted, it has it is secure, right? And the second thing, that the blockchain, it is actually stored on a various different nodes that there are, right? It is not stored in a centralized server, so it is decentralized. So two major things that we have noted, that blockchain is secure because of the encryption, and blockchain is decentralized because of the nodes, right? So the uses of these two things are mostly in finance. Like, we right now, a new term is coming up, which is DeFi, decentralized finance, where where there is no one central authority managing the transactions right now. But like, we have a debit cards, right? We have a credit cards. What we do is we go to a bank, we swipe it, right? And even if we want to buy one, then we have to go to bank, and then we buy one, and then we go ahead and swipe those cards. And what bank has is a number inside their databases, that this particular guy has this much in their account, right? Supposedly I have maybe 10,000 in my account, so that 10,000 acts as a number in the database of the bank, right? Now, but decentralized finance, when decentralized finance came into picture, so what happened was that the servers, as there is no centralized server, the servers are decentralized, and there are a lot of people like you and me. We can run nodes, right, and be a validator of the chain. So the power has spread to different nodes that are running the chain, right? So there is no central authority here, as well as the blockchain is secure, so your transactions are secure, right? Now your addresses are secure. So these two things that was first proposed by Bitcoin were included. What that is what started DeFi, decentralized finance, right? And coming on to NFT marketplace, this is one another use case of this particular uh, system, right? In NFT marketplace, now NFT, what NFT is non-fungible tokens, right? Let me, you'll hear about NFT a lot. So let me clear the buzz about what NFT actually is, right? What are fungible tokens and what are non-fungible tokens, right? So if we talk about maybe maybe 100 rupee note, right? So when you go to a market, and if you need 10 rupee notes, what you'll do is you'll give the shopkeeper 100 rupee notes, and you'll take 10 rupee notes in return of that 100 rupee note, right? And the value of that 100 rupee note, as well as the value of those 10 rupee notes, are the same, right? So right now, this means that 100 rupee note is fungible, right? It could be replaced by something of the same value. But in the uh, non-fungible tokens, what they are exactly the opposite, as the name suggests, that they cannot be like that. So what happens in non-fungible tokens is that if in case you have an art piece, right? Supposedly a painting. Now that painting is only one in the universe. There could not be anything else uh, resembling that painting, or of any value that painting has, right? So you cannot really break down that painting into another subparts, right? So those kind of things, those are non-fungible. So non-fungible token represents artistic, mostly represent artistic sets. Like you can create an NFT on some images, you can create an NFT on videos, right? Because those are something that will be created only once, and if if those are not replicated, right, and those will be considered under NFTs, right? So cross-border payments, right now, when you have to pay from one country to another, you have to pay taxations and all those things. With Bitcoin, it's like, if I'm sitting right here, I have to send the money somewhere else. We can directly share it with Bitcoin or with Ethereum or with any other cryptocurrency for that matter, right? And supply chain and logistic monitoring, a lot of people are working on supply chain and logistic monitoring right now with the use of blockchain. One of the major reasons that why they're doing this is that supply chain in itself, if anybody of you have production experience, supply chain in itself is very, very uh, cumbersome. Like, it's very unmanaged, right? And there are a lot of things. If made public, the supply chain management could be very easy to be done, right? So it would be very easy to manage a supply chain. So that's why uh, there are a lot of use cases that are still being explored in supply chain and logistic monitoring, right? Last I heard, Luxo was the one who was working on something like this, and a lot of they have attracted a lot of good people as well, a lot of good developers as well as a lot of good investors as well towards their coin. So okay, let's move next. Okay, before I move further, a quick yes or no. Has everybody understood what I have been telling since now? A yes or no
Um,
again?
Vinayak,
Yeah,
I'll just wanted to like recommend something. You are sharing your screen. We covered about DeFi. So could you just as the chat? I'm just typing this link. Could you just share like open this link on your screen?
sure, sure. Yeah,
I just want them to get a feel like what they are studying about. So yeah,
definitely, definitely.
yeah.
There it is.
So this is a DeFi Pulse website wherein you see like what kind of a DeFi applications are live as of now. So
Hmm.
if you see here, there are like 55 billion TVL logged in DeFi protocols. And if I'll tell you a really great example of that. On sixth number, you can say Uniswap. It's the TVL logged is 5 billion. So
Hmm.
about that, so I was reading the code of Uniswap, I would say like a few days earlier. And if you evaluate that, the line of code which is written in the Uniswap, and if you divide by that the total volume logged, each line of code is worth $18 million. So that's the kind of value you're creating with this DeFi protocols. So I just want to like to start your journey. I'll definitely recommend you start reading about all these protocols, like what is Aave, like what is Maker, what is Compound, like what all these dApps are doing, how they are creating a decentralized finance. You'll get that feel like, okay, this is something really amazing. You guys are coders, you code every single day. Can you imagine that one line of code can be worth it like $18 million? Can you imagine that? So it's too awesome. So I'll definitely recommend you to read about all these protocols, like what they do. So what you can do is that relate every one of the protocol to a centralized finance. You know about bank, you know about lending, you know about borrowing, you know about like how we pursue loans, you know about everything. Now understand how all these centralized finance is being translated to decentralized finance. Relate every other application to a centralized finance thing. Then you will be able to understand then how these applications are like so innovative, like how why people are like so much like mad about them. In DeFi, it's like every other day, a new application is launching in DeFi. There's like not just suppose that you go to a bank, then you're depositing some money, and there's an interest rate, I think 5 to 8%, if I'm not wrong, in centralized finance. You can earn an interest of 5 to 8%. In this kind of protocols, the interest rate is around 1,000% to 1,000%. That's the APR you're getting out of using these dApps. That's too
Yes.
crazy. So definitely like, go and check this out. And for NFT, I'll recommend one more link, Finayak. I know I'm taking a lot of time, but just yeah, there's the link. Just open this link. OpenSea.
OpenSea,
Yeah.
OpenSea.io,
So
right?
OpenSea is a NFT marketplace. Um, you all know about digital arts, right? Like there are a lot of digital artists out there. They have their art galleries. This like they show their arts there, but like that art is around like value around like $100 $200. Now, like what this NFT is doing is that it's a non-fungible token, and people are like that's like one art is considered as one NFT, and people are listing their like NFTs there. And like these are like this might sound funny that these like simple arts are like valued like some $1 million, but they are true. So these are
Hmm.
like simple NFTs. You could go to like marketplace, Vinayak. I think you could see some
Yeah, yeah.
NFTs there. Yeah.
Let's have it here.
So yeah, this link. Yeah. So like there are a lot of like arts there, and you could see like the price around it. It's like first is 5 ethers, and if you see, I think I'm not sure like what's the price of Ethereum right now. I didn't check in the morning. but I think it must be around some
It would,
$10,000. So this simple art,
yeah.
you can see, the simple art is like worth around $10,000. So it's to like all these arts. Now if you are a designer, you love designing, you could create a simple art, you could create a simple, I would say, a digital art, and you can list it there and earn some money out of it. So it's that kind of things, like things are translating now into. That's why people are so interested into this, in this technology. So yeah, just wanted to let you know about all these things which is happening on the space right now.
Yeah, interesting, definitely. I think a lot of you must have heard about all of these things, right? And the money, definitely, the money aspect of blockchain in itself is quite lucrative. If you go to NFT, if you go to DeFi, definitely, this is something that is bringing people right now towards towards this space. If you, what else are we looking forward for here, right? This is something that solves all the problem for us, right? So, shall I continue, Muskan? If there's something,
Oh no, please. Yeah,
yeah,
please
okay,
go
okay,
ahead.
sure. So, what is Ethereum, right? So, as I told you that the Ethereum is something that is very special. Right now, that you see here, right, OpenSea.io, right? So, even this particular thing, I think all the NFTs that are listed here are taking, are listed in ETH, right? So what exactly Ethereum is, that Ethereum has the power that has enabled all this to be featured, right? Like you can actually create an NFT, put it forth on such a platform, right? And then you can buy and sell NFTs from here, right? You can even profit from it. So such a thing has been enabled by Ethereum. That is why Ethereum is very special, because of the capabilities of Ethereum, because of the programmable capabilities of Ethereum, right, in itself. So when we are on an Ethereum chain, right? So if we can do all this cool stuff, right? Create an NFT. This is one of those things. Create a DeFi, create a dApp, decentralized application, right? Where all the things are decentralized, where the database is decentralized, where it's public, where people can see it, right? All of these use cases bringing out new things, new technologies, right? And as Muskan mentioned, all these protocols are also a part of it. Just see the chain here, look at the chain here, right? So this is what I'll say is the power of Ethereum. This is why we chose Ethereum. This is what I was actually watching here, right? Look at the chain. If all of those, all of these protocols, everything has been built on this particular thing, right? The whole thing, if we are now, these protocols in itself, they are very good, right? As Muskan suggested. But look at the chain. So this is the power of Ethereum. This is why we have chosen Ethereum as uh, the the base of this presentation, like and to discuss about it, like what are the basic building blocks of Ethereum and how actually you can get started, right? So Ethereum, right? Now these are three major things that we will cover about Ethereum. Like these are something that define Ethereum as a whole. So one is data that Ethereum stores, right? Every node stores data. So Ethereum has nodes, like we have discussed about Bitcoin, the blockchain, right? The node system. So it has data. It has EVM, right? Ethereum virtual machine. Now, what exactly EVM does is that it has the power of computation. Right now, what we discussed was storage, like we were storing transactions in the chain, right? Right now, what we were able to do was insert transactions into the chain. But what if we insert code into it, right? And somehow we have a computer that runs on it and that executes the code, right? So this is what Ethereum is doing. It is putting code into it and then executing the code. And then to execute it, they have introduced this, what is known as EVM, right? and EVM is the one that is doing all those things, the computation thing. So with EVM came smart contracts, right? Where we can actually write code, deploy them onto the chain, and then interact with them. And those smart contracts could be, they could be analogous to something like, uh, if you're storing a variable in a database, right? It is an analogous to that. That smart contract. Just you're storing it, manipulating it, right? By using a smart contract. So this is how they achieved all of those things that are being mentioned. You know, NFTs, the platforms that there are, right? And and then even further we'll have Muskan discuss about the, you know, possibilities of what else, what are the, you know, shortcomings of Ethereum. We'll go there when we'll have the time to, right? And the third thing is world state. World state in Ethereum is just the state of the accounts, right? And the states of the transactions. But what exactly is going on there? Like if my account has some money now, that's the state of my account, right? And these three things are something that makes the whole Ethereum network. Not major things, but I'll say there are a lot more things to learn, right? So let's look at a smart contract. What exactly is a smart contract, right? That has the capability to create decentralized applications, right? And the protocols are mostly built here on these smart contracts, all those protocols, right? So this is how a smart contract building is how a person can get started in Ethereum, right? And to create all those things. So this here, as you can see, the first line, it just tells that we use Solidity for this kind for Ethereum, right? In Ethereum we use Solidity as a language. Now what this smart contract does is when we compile it, it is being compiled into a bytecode. But right now, if we talk about the functionality of this smart contract, it is a simple storage smart contract. It just stores the data, and then when you call the function of get, it just gets that data. Somehow, you know, it seems very familiar to Java to me. You know, the syntax of it, mostly similar as like, you know, classes, but yeah, mostly similar, but not exactly similar. So one can relate this to that language, and it's very easy. As you see, you know, I think a lot of you must know Java, right? A lot, and learning Solidity is like, you know, 2 days work for you guys, for sure, right? And getting and then deploying the contract may take one more day for that matter. So in 3 days you can, you know, get started with deploying a smart contract. Now this is where you get started, right? Deploying a smart contract on Ethereum chain. Make sure you understand this pivot, right? If you want to get started. So uh, this smart contract, it does that, right? So it's a program that is inserted in the chain, and then we, you know, call upon it, we compute it using EVM. So this is what Ethereum has achieved, and that you know, distinguishes it from another chains, right? And Web3, right? There might be a possibility that you might have heard about Web2 and Web3. Now, what exactly is Web2 and what exactly is Web3? Now, as you can see from this graph clearly that we are moving towards Web3. Uh, Let me talk about Web2 first. Now, a lot of you must be familiar with, you know, some, you know, cloud computing, right? Lot of you must be familiar with that, and the way we actually compute things, right? The way we use our servers, mostly centralized servers, and you know, we put data on the cloud, we compute it. If somebody knows Node.js, you know, they must know that we have a server for computing, a central server for computing, then we call upon it, compute things, and then we throw the data back, right? This is how we do things in Web2, right? In Web2, the things that came into picture were, you know, social networks, right? Mobile first. Now all of those things, they came on Web2, right? The things that we're developing right now, all the applications, mobile apps, and all those things, they are Web2. Web3, what exactly is Web3? Now Web3 is a decentralized data architecture, right? Where the things are more secure and are decentralized. We are moving away from centralization because we need security, we need privacy for our data, right? So we are moving towards Web3, where all of these features will come into play, right? And this is the basic differences of Web3 and Web2. Now Web3 is something that that is being achieved using blockchain, right, currently. And blockchain is one of the main reasons, we are able to move on to Web3. And current limitations with the Ethereum network. Muskan, can you take this?
Okay, so I'll try to explain this really simple, but it can be a little difficult. So I'll tell you the situation from 2017. In 2017, there was a dApp called CryptoKitties. So it was a well-adopted dApp, and what happened in 2017, a lot of people were trying to buy this CryptoKitties. So CryptoKitty was one of a NFT. It was a digital collectible. So that just congested the entire Ethereum network. Like I would say, at one time, around 12,000 transactions were pending. People were not able to do transactions in Ethereum because like there were like lot of people were transacting, like they wanted to buy this CryptoKitties because it was really a valued like NFT at that time. So like at that time, when people were not able to do their transactions in Ethereum, the scalability came into place. Like there's a one chain that is Ethereum. Every transaction is happening on that chain. And now when a transaction happens in Ethereum, there are miners in that chain, and that miners have to mine a particular transaction. And I'll not go really deep, this can be a little complicated, but to mine that transaction, they have to follow a consensus algorithm called proof of work that Ethereum follows. So that for that they have to spend a lot of energy to do that. So so like what happened was that was taking a lot of time, and like a lot of like energy was spent there. So now the scalability solutions came into place. And so there are a lot of scalability solutions out there. Like you can if you can see layer 2 solutions like rollups. There are like some side chains, there are some commit chains. So there are a lot of solutions out there. You don't need to study about everyone, but I'll tell you about a Polygon. So a Polygon, like we were founded in 2017. It was like it was called Matic earlier, and basically Matic is a commit chain to Ethereum. Now this is the Ethereum chain. You can consider this is a layer on top of that. That is a Matic chain. Now all the transactions, all the I would say computations, they're happening on Matic chain, and every 30 minutes a Merkle root of transaction is submitted to Ethereum chain. I would say a checkpoint is submitted to Ethereum every 30 minutes. Now, what I mean by Merkle root is that in a block of Ethereum, there's a Merkle root. Now, just suppose that there's like a lot of transactions. Now, what you can do is that transaction number 1, transaction number 2, you could like I would say you guys know about binary tree, right? There's a root of binary tree. Like that, there's the root of, you must have said about DS, so there's a binary. So that root of binary tree is called a Merkle root. Now, so that's a Merkle root. Now that is pushed to Ethereum every 30 minutes. Now what Matic is basically a layer 2 solution, or I would say a commit chain, a different chain on top of Ethereum to help scale Ethereum. So I'll tell you the use case of it. Now suppose that you are making a decentralized Twitter. Now for that, just suppose that just to put a really simple tweet, you have to pay a gas fees of, I would say you have to pay a gas fees of around $5, $6. You'll never put that tweet, I know. It's like just to put a single tweet, why should I pay like $7, $8? Why should I use it only? So to scale this blockchain, to scale the Ethereum, to have that mass adoption, you need a scalability solution. Now Matic is a scalability solution to Ethereum. The gas fees, now gas fees on top, like on Matic, is around $0.0004. That is like a negligible fee. If you don't know about, so basically gas fees is something like whenever you do any transaction on Ethereum, like you're transferring some money, you're interacting with any dApp, so you have to pay a certain amount. That is called gas fees. So on Ethereum chain, that is paid in Ether, and on Matic chain, that is paid in Matic tokens. So I hope you have like understand like what was, so like to solve all the problems of Ethereum chain, like high gas fees, low throughput, low scalability, all the scaling solutions came into place. That blockchains, these Ethereum chain can be like mass adopter. Like a lot of people should use these dApps. Now, in terms of numbers, if I would say, Now I'll not talk about like we have recently rebranded to Polygon now, but I'll not talk about that in detail. I don't want to confuse you guys, because now Polygon is a scaling aggregator. uh, I'll not talk about that. I think you'll like leave this blockchain and like just leave it, like we'll not study it. I'll not talk about that. I'll simply tell you that this is a scaling solution. It's a scaling solution that is here to scale Ethereum, so that this all these ecosystem can be like mass adopted. Like all the normal people like us can use the applications which are built on top of Ethereum. Now, if I compare as of now, I'm talking about the yesterday stats. Yesterday, there was like around 1.2 million transactions in Ethereum, and there were like 7 million transactions on Polygon POS chain, that is Matic chain. Reason being is scalability. Reason being is, I would say, a really simple user experience. Now, just suppose you are playing a game, right? Now, if you talk about the gaming industry, there are a lot of like gaming applications are there on Ethereum and Matic. Now, suppose that you're playing a simple game, and just to play the game, just to do normal things, if you have to pay $5, $6, $7, the gaming applications will not be able to invite simple users or simple gamers to their game, right? So that's why all these applications are deploying on Matic chain now, and Ethereum is becoming a settling layer for them. That's it. So in terms of like dApps, I would say you should go to this link. It's called awesomepolygon.com. So this list has all the dApps which are there on Polygon right now. It's around 350 plus applications which are deployed on Polygon as of now. There are like DeFi applications, there are NFT application, and there are like a lot of applications out there. So you should definitely check it out. And now I'll just cover a little bit about Polygon. Polygon is basically a scaling aggregator. Now, if you see in the layer 2 space now, you must be hearing about Arbitrum, you must be hearing about Optimism, they're like optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, and there are a lot of scaling solutions out there. Now, what Polygon is doing is that Polygon is becoming a scaling aggregator. That if you want to use ZK rollups, that we have that. If you want to use optimistic rollups, we have that. If you want to use any other solution, we have that solution on one platform. Basically, it is one solution which has every other scaling solutions in it. So that's the now Polygon is becoming, and like a lot of dApps to experiment with. Definitely like check it out. And yeah, I think that's all about like Polygon. If you are into the space, you must be hearing a lot about like scalability, Polygon, like Matic these days. So like go and like check it out. And in terms of development, now I'll cover. So we basically say this internal that if you are an Ethereum developer, you're already a Polygon developer, because like because it's an EVM compatible chain, right? Like all the tools and functionalities, all the language, it's same. So in like Ethereum, if you want to code, you do that in like a Solidity. And similarly, if you want to deploy any application on Polygon, you have to do that in Solidity language only. And all the like tools and functionalities, they are compatible with Polygon also. So yeah, I think that's all about Polygon I would like to cover. And what else I can do is that okay, like let's go to the next slide, then I'll cover about that, like how they can start their journey. Yeah. Okay. So about like I think Vinayak will cover more about it, but I'll just tell you like how you can start with these things. So I think like in my experience, in my journey, I have been seeing like a lot of students like starting out their journey, but the sad part is I'm seeing less students from Indian universities. Like in all the universities out there, I'm seeing a lot of students out there like who are trying into blockchain, or who are like doing a lot of stuff, but I'm seeing less Indians. So I'm hoping with these sessions, I'll see like more people in the blockchain industry now. I'm hoping. So even if you need any kind of help, just like reach out to me directly, or like Vinayak will definitely help you guys. But to start your journey, what I would recommend is start with the hackathons. That's a great start to start with. That's a really great thing to start your journey with. Just like after this session, just sit, just read about all these things. Like just read about Ethereum white paper, like what Ethereum is all about. oh, okay, we are a poor country, but like, don't even think about that, right? You're IITians, you're not coming into that category. Just start learning about blockchain. Why am I saying this is that we all are like 90s generations, right? We have not seen that internet journey. Like when internet came into place, there was so much buzz around it. Like everyone was talking about it. Like what's internet? Now this is a next revolution of internet. You can say this, you can call it internet of value, you can call it as an internet of money. Now if you miss that wave, right, I'm sure you don't want to miss this wave, you don't want to miss this new internet of revolution wave. So just go and start with things. It's, you all are coders, you are like studying in IITs, you all are really intelligent people. I know, like it's really simple things for you to start with. You know about JavaScript, you know about other languages. It's really simple for you to learn Solidity and start coding some things. Just go after the session, create a MetaMask wallet, uh, get some test ether, try to learn some Solidity, deploy your code, and you can use a Remix for that. Just try to deploy your code on Remix, and then uh, just start taking part in hackathons. Hackathons are a great way to learn. There are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of supporters in the hackathons. You'll definitely learn a lot of things out there. And I will also recommend the next hackathon. I think there's ETH Odyssey, which is I think starting from 2nd of July. So I hope all of you guys, I could see you all. We are sponsors in the ETH Odyssey. I would love to see all you there participating. Just start with a really simple idea. Just start with a really simple dApp. Just see like what is a dApp, what is a decentralized application, how can I start my dApp journey, just to build a really simple dApp. And you could like just start with really small things in hackathons. You will definitely get the feel of it. You will start understanding things. And it's also like one more thing here is that second thing you could do is you could like go to Gitcoin. It's a really good website to start your journey with. And there are a lot of bounties out there. Like you could like actually like put like you'd actually learn and earn also. Like that's the learn and earn kind of website. So start experimenting things there. And but yeah, there are a lot of resources out there. Like I think we have like recommended some resources here also, but like a lot of resources out there. Just start checking it out. You'll definitely get that feel like where to start your journey from. But I would recommend you all that just spend some time. I would say just to find your interest, you should explore everything. Spend, I would say, 5 to 10 days on blockchain. If you don't find interest, then just go back to your machine learnings and your different segments you have been doing. But just start experimenting with things. Just spend 10 days, I would say. If you think this is something I should spend my time with, continue, else don't do it. So that's a simple way to like start learning things. So just start doing it. So yeah, I can see one question that can we start participating in hackathons just with, yeah, you can definitely do that. Because like there are a lot of like sponsors in the hackathons, they'll definitely help you out. This ETH Odyssey is by Devfolio. They organize a lot of workshops also. And if you'll meet a lot of people there who are actually building on blockchain. So you'll understand from them also. So like just start it. Don't be afraid, but just start your journey with like hackathons. It's a great way to start your journey in blockchain with. So yeah, that's all about it. Vinayak, you are on mute if you're speaking.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are open to questions now. There are some, but we'll have I think very few time is left, so we'll be able to take a very few questions only. So go ahead, guys, if you have some questions you need to ask. In the meanwhile, but will suggest you is that, as Muskan has already told you guys, that all of these resources are something that you can go to and get started. Try to get started, right? That is the major point, right? Just go ahead, make some code. You guys are made for that. You guys are IITians. I think most of you are from CS backgrounds. You guys are made for that. So just go ahead, deploy a smart contract. It's that easy, right? Because you just need to read. Now that is a very, very big word. You need to read, right? So just go ahead and do that. I think Muskan, Ayush has a question. Can we do that?
Won't Matic
We
be
have some questions
useless
here.
when ETH 2.0 launches as scalability issues gets resolved? Just asking. Uh, no, I think it's nothing like that. All these scalability solutions will go in vain, like after ETH 2.0 launches, because still there's a lot of time for ETH 2.0 launch, and it'll not be still able to give the gas fees which is required for all these applications out there. Like all the applications, like gaming applications, they require the negligible fees, and that'll not be possible even if Ethereum 2.0 launches. So what the roadmap is looking like that is that Ethereum will eventually become I would say, a settling layer for all these like scalability solutions out there. All the solutions like Optimism, Arbitrum, also with a new Polygon wave now. Polygon is becoming a scaling aggregator. It's no more a one scaling solution. So it's nothing like that. Like after like Ethereum 2.0 launches, all these like scaling solutions out there will not be of use. They'll still be of use, because like the kind of like gas fees and the kind of like UX which is required for all these dApps, that can be given with a scalability solution only. Even Ethereum 2.0 would not be able to offer that really a small gas fees. So it'll still be there. It'll still exist.
Uh, Let me take this one. Do we need to learn cryptography to get started? No, Anurag, you don't need to. You just need some basics of it. If you know how hashes work, that's I think that is enough for you to get started. But nothing more is needed for it. Will it be fruitful to decentralize messaging apps? Now, that is a question that is basically an idea that if you want to decentralize messaging apps, right? And will it be fruitful? Totally depends on you. Go ahead, create it. Let's see if it is. And okay, so I think that is it. Any more questions? Before we go, I'd like to say this that uh, Polygon has already worked a lot, right? And there is this Discord group that we'll be sharing with you guys. In that, you'll find a lot of experienced developers of India as well as abroad, right? Polygon has actually the biggest community that there is in India, one of the biggest communities in India, right, of developers. So go ahead, join it, ask your questions, right? If you are not able to ask it right here, go ahead, go there, ask it there, right? Everybody in the crypto community is very, very welcoming, right? I still remember the days when I started in crypto. So after that, it was just a at that particular time, when I was like, I need some test coins, for to work, right? So I posted it in a group. 10 people replied, 10 people sent me their test coins in a group, and that group was barely active, nobody was working there. So that friendly that community is, right? You just need to ask, and you will get, definitely you'll get. So be connected, right? Be connected with us if you are interested, and if you are looking forward for a career in this technology. Be connected. That is the most important part of learning. And ask questions, right? I think
Yeah.
with this note, we can you know Discord link will, my team will share it with you, right? And we'll get back to you with the link. Your organizers will share it with you, right? Or it will be sent to you on a mail. So that would be taken care of, right? Great, great. It was great. Very nice talking to you guys, right? Thank you so much for being so active. Really loved the audience, right? And thank you. That's all right then.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for
Okay,
having
thank you.
me.
Bye bye.
Bye.